Good morning and welcome to this great edition of our serialized conversation. Now, over 100 small businesses around the country need financing to invest, grow and create new jobs. But we know that SMEs need more than financing to thrive. They need access to information, markets and technology to become more productive, efficient and resilient. While they also need access to resources that can help strengthen their well-being. Increasingly, banks and fintech companies are becoming embedded in the SME ecosystem, and they're playing a key role beyond finance to build and grow the capabilities of the small businesses. However, COVID-19 continues to test the resiliency of the SMEs. Now, this brings us to our serialized conversation today under the top 100 mid-sized companies. Under the theme today, how SMEs can utilize different financing options during the COVID-19 period. To bring this home on set, I have Dr. Fred K. Muhumuza, Advanced Policy Analyst and Lecturer at Makerere University of Economics. And we have Mr. Ronald Kasasa, the Head of Business Banking at DFCU Bank, with pleasure. And we have Barbara Kabuchu, the Director of Finance and Administration from the Uganda Investment Authority. And finally, we have Mr. Japheth C. Kawanguzi, the team leader at Innovation Hub. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and the hashtag is Top 100 SMEs at 20. And this show is powered by the Uganda Investment Authority, DFCU Bank, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation in partnership with KPMG and the Daily Monitor. I'm Andrew Chamagero and the conversation has started. Good morning, my panel.
Good morning.
It's an honor to see you here today. I am grateful to have a female again on site, but the seating arrangement is still the same. We have investment, we have bank, we have innovation, or Minister of Science and Technology. Well, to start this conversation, I'll start with the DFCU Bank. Mr. Kasasa, has the banking sector seen the worst of COVID-19, if I should put it that way? And as it turned around the corner, do you see a journey to recovery?
Thank you very much. First of all, allow me to convey my greetings to our customers. I want to convey our condolences to our customers who have lost their loved ones due to COVID. I also wish to convey our sympathies to our customers whose business is struggling right now due to the economic impact brought about by COVID. And also, thank God for those customers whose business is thriving and they have no issues as of now. Now, back into that question, there are few parameters that I wish to look at that would determine whether the banking sector is performing well or has challenges. And I would like to look at the capital adequacy. Now, just by looking at the capital adequacy from the statistics from Bank of Uganda, most of the banks have remained adequate in terms of capitalization. Today, the average capital adequacy ratio is around 21%, which is above the regulatory requirement of 10%. That gives comfort to the public that the banking sector is still solvent. We have not heard of any banks being closed because of COVID or because of the challenges of capitalization. The second is about liquidity. If banks lack liquidity, it means that they would fail to meet the obligations of their customers as they mature. They would fail to meet the depositors' needs. They also fail to meet the commitment on loans as engaged with the customers. But as today, we have not heard of any banks struggling with the liquidity challenges. Neither have we heard of any banks closing because they cannot meet the deposit pressure, the demands of the depositors. So that gives you the comfort that the banks today are still liquid because of the good corporate governance. Then thirdly is about profitability. The banks have remained profitable. In the 9 months after the COVID outbreak in the country, they have remained profitable, which gives the comfort that there's sustainability of the banking sector. But again, if you annualize, at the end of the year, probably it is highly likely that banks will register a drop in the profitability. Some probably may also register losses if you annualize the performance. Then on the credit performance, of course, much as there's been lockdown, there's been slowness in the business, there's been a registered 14% growth in credit lending. However, that could have been better under normal circumstances. The 14% growth is around 15 trillion that has been lent out to the public. On the flip side, however, COVID has brought about economic sluggishness. Now, this sluggishness, it has affected the quality of the portfolio the performance of the loans has deteriorated. That's why you see a growth in the NPL from 3.8% last year to 5.8% June this year. Bank of Uganda, from their stats, they project a growth in the NPL, non-performing loans, to 10% at the end of the year, or probably next year, if the economy continues to struggle. Now, what that means is that the banks that are vulnerable are going to experience challenges of continuity, because as the non-performing loans increase, then the capital is eroded. That is the biggest risk for the banks. Now, the biggest contributors to the non-performing loans are a few sectors. We have trade and commerce, we have real estate, we have education, and we have tours and travels, hotel and leisure. But again, you realize that, much as there's been those challenges and, there's vulnerability that these banks that are highly exposed in these sectors will face, challenges of continuity next year. And especially those that have marginal profit, have been registering marginal profit over the years, will have challenges. Some banks have been quite cautious enough in terms of, exposing themselves. So you see that most of the banks, much as they're trying to lend, they're lending much more cautiously to the public than it was before. Secondly, the banks have become more closer to the customers to understand the journey of their customers. If there's any change in the performance of the customer, the banks are very quick to come in to provide, remedies to get back the customer on board. And thirdly, you realize that banks have tried to automate so much so they can become more accessible to the customers. So the customers do not fail to perform on their loans because they cannot access the banks. So that's how the banks are equipping themselves. And when you look at how it is, if the economy continues to struggle as it is today, next year we're going to see a lot of challenge. And you'll see quite a number of banks withdrawing now from the lending, trying to, they'll be very skeptical about lending. And that is very risky. It will affect the aggregate demand in the market. It will affect the growth of the economy. So we all hope and pray that things will get better next year.
How badly will the elections affect the banking sector in that regard? That most of them are going to hold back their monies because they'll be either lending out extremely sensitively or consciously in the wave of political season.
Yes, and that question is very varied. What happens in Uganda is that, whenever there is politics, whenever we are going into elections, the investors usually are very skeptical about investing their capital. They are careful about risking their capital. So they hold back their capital. So it leads into a situation called capital holding. So they hold back on their capital. They wait for that time when they think things will be okay. Now, if you're going into elections next year and, we're in a situation whereby the economy is slow, we'll see quite a number of investors holding back on their investments, and that way we'll see business again continuing to struggle. The businesses right now that have profits, that have retained their profits, they'll be quite slow in reinvesting this profit. And those that would have wished to inject more capital into their business to expand their operations are going to slow down. So probably until after the elections and until after the political tension has gone down, that's when you see, probably around June or July, that's when you see economies easing up and investors coming back to start injecting their money into the businesses and the economy.
That is Ronald Kasasa, the head of business banking from the DFCU Bank. With pleasure, so they say, and indeed it is. We'll be having Dr. Freda Muhomuza, the development policy analyst, to start up this conversation. But I understand, Doctor, you're ready. Can you hear me, Doctor?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Well, Doctor, starting off this conversation, as COVID-19 storm settled, and are you seeing a recovery shift from where you stand as a policy analyst?
I think, like Kasasa has put it, the recovery is still slow. As you have said, there was opening up of the economy, but not necessarily opening up the economy itself. Because arcades may be open, but arcades survive on people who come from homes that already are still locked down in a sense. If these are teachers, if these are farmers, they're still not getting the income they expected to get. If these are tour and travel people, they're still not getting the income they need. So the arcades would be open, but still people are not buying some of the things that people are supposed to be selling out there. Those in the food industry, of course, food will continuously eat. So those ones may be prioritized because everyone needs to eat. So some segments of the economy are open and some segments are not really open yet.
Doctor, we're going to tap into a little later. Back to you. Coming to Ghana Investment Authority here, we are having Barbara Kabuchu. Barbara, from where you stand, what are the key setbacks in your drive to attract investors, especially now that we're in a COVID-19 era and we are heading to election season? Oh, we're already in the wave of it.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. And first of all, I want to thank NTV for inviting us here. We appreciate the continuous collaboration with the top 100 SMEs.
Oh, yes.
And I bring greetings from Uganda Investment Authority. And we also appreciate what top 100 SMEs is doing for the SMEs, because by nature, that's what Uganda Investment Authority does. We are there to facilitate and promote investments in the country. So this is really, and for this year, we noticed that we're doing more capacity building through, so all SMEs, not only the top 100 SMEs, are benefiting from this. We are proud to be associated with the top 100 SMEs because we've seen them grow. We've partnered with them for over the last 5 years. We've seen the SMEs grow in registration, certification, taxation, being able to do the books of accounts. So actually, when you compare the SME that joined the group then and now, they are far ahead, and they're able to access capital and all that. So we thank the partners for this program. Now,
Back to
the
my
setbacks.
question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Back to your question.
Yes.
So the setbacks are, of course, COVID. I had Mr. Kasasa talking about how the banking sector is doing so well.
The figures were worrying, though.
The figures were worrying, but there's an increase. I mean, they actually have made profit. The banking sector,
growth.
14% in this day and age, who makes 14% growth?
Oh, yes.
So as we are on the side of investors, and we come here to say our investors, especially the SME investors, are suffering. Yes,
True.
They have suffered during COVID-19, and because we know, laying off of workers, lockdown causing people, high transport costs and all those things. But we are saying what we have suffered as UIA to promote. We've had cancelled investment promotions where we were supposed to go and promote investments in all over the region and even the country and internationally. We've had to cancel. But most importantly, investment projects have been cancelled, implementation of the projects, both internationally and here. Okay, so people who had to do like something and had scheduled, plans to do investments had to cancel them because of COVID-19. So that investment promotion has been affected that way. But what is Uganda Investment Authority doing? So we've had to rely more on online promotions and meetings and engagements with our investments, both SME and other investors. And but more specifically, as Uganda Investment Authority, what have we done? We have, through our one-stop center, I hope we know about the one-stop center. Uganda Investment Authority has a physical and online one-stop center, which has about 14 agencies, government agencies, all in one place at the authority, giving services to the people, but also the online one-stop center. So an investor in London or in Kapchora, anywhere, didn't have to be in Kampala at our UIA offices to do business, because they would log into our online service and get help, because we have a range of experts, business experts at our offices who give. Actually, to put it into context, on average, the UIA, through the one-stop center, helps 100 investors on a daily.
Wow.
We're talking about 500 investors in a week.
Wow.
So many people don't know about this, but it's all over. People who have known the trick about the UIA one-stop center are accessing it. And
maybe UIA is not good now to, publicize
about
it.
And we are here to tell people that we are there at the authority, both online, but also physically. And what you can get through the one-stop center is land search. Now you can actually go and request for a land search from wherever you are. You don't even have to be there, You can do investment license registration. You can do, business advisory.
So how does Uganda Investment Authority do background checks on this? I could be a masquerader and I come on the platform and I do all these searches and all. How sure are you
We
that
have
I'm an
a
investor?
rigorous check system for who is true and who is actually a fake investor.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a whole process, and as you can see, if you follow what the top 100 SME does to check what an investor is, you must have, for example, 3-year records and audited by credible auditors. I mean, you really have to be fake to have a third year. And then, but many other things, we have a rigorous system which I can't go into right now.
Okay.
But when you come to the authority,
You are going to go
Yes,
through it because we're
correct.
here to actually make it better
okay,
for
but
the SMEs.
also we have we're doing what the UIA specifically during COVID has gone into developing business ideas for the investors. So we thought it's not about talking and advising and whatever. We went ahead, partnered with some, for example, UNDP partners, development partners, and have developed investment projects. I can give you just an example, the current one. On our UIA website is the Renzori profiles. So there's a range of all investments that you can undertake in the Renzori region on the website. But apart from that, we have a compendium, a booklet of investment ideas for SMEs. So, and this was done specifically for COVID time to help people to know what's happening now, what's relevant, what can you do and then remain profitable. Now, in those investment projects I'm talking about, it's all researched from inception to the end, the net present value, the financing
That it's
language.
feasible and all.
If it's feasible, what will you do? What are the financing setbacks? Should I do it? Should I not? So please come to the UIA through the one-stop center, but also you can visit physically, get these projects, speak with our business advisors. We have a range of experts who have been trained by DFID and all other partners, and that's why we're there to support this.
Barbara, you didn't put the disclaimer for free.
For free.
Well, that is Barbara Kabuchi from the Uganda Investment Authority. Coming to Japheth, you are an innovator. I'm super proud of Japheth because I've been in countries where they hold you in high esteem. They say there is an innovator in Uganda. I'm like, I know that guy. I know the man. So in the wake of COVID-19 and how business is running, what innovative solutions do you have for the SMEs during this period, even past this period of COVID-19?
Thank you, Andrew, for that question. It's a very important one, and I'm happy to be part of the top 100. We came through as Innovation Village last year. So there are a couple of solutions, but the more I've listened to Barbara and Mr. Kasasa, I think the reflection has been on, it's easy to bundle innovators and SMEs and
in one cluster.
But I'm happy to be representing a segment of the unknown technology entrepreneurs, startups, and even those in the creative sector that are actually, coming up during this period of time. So I'd encourage, my colleagues, and I realize now my role that has just
is to
occurred
lead.
to me is to link.
Yes.
Because if you listen to Uganda Investment Authority, Barbara speaking, there is the profiles of investment opportunities
in there.
But we're leaving out the profiles of entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs who represent almost a $2 billion opportunity in Africa every year.
Oh, yeah.
So we need to connect those dots.
Nice.
But that said, of course, the period has been quite challenging. For me, it's been a double-edged sword. We had entrepreneurs who closed because they couldn't go on with business amidst the lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
But then what we've seen during this period, there's actually, it has kick-started our digital economy.
As a nation.
As a nation.
Yes, true.
I recently had the Minister of Trade speaking about e-commerce, as the new way to go. So it has kick-started the digital economy. It has activated what we now know as a low-touch economy, where you're but I need the service.
But I make the transaction.
Yes. So amidst that, we've seen entrepreneurs whose services have gotten more revenue in the last 8 months of COVID than the last 3 years put together. We, at the Innovation Village, we also launched an innovation challenge for COVID with our partners, and we got over 60 submissions from entrepreneurs about what they want to do for SMEs. One of that is, Sente, a platform, and we worked with Sente and the MasterCard Foundation to help SMEs get back online so they can do business as usual. And we helped about 4,000 SMEs get back online to continue doing their business. And I remember this, I was sent a video of a trader in Nakasero Market who now on the Sente platform could continue business as usual because now people could order from all over the country and, they're able to deliver.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is convenience. I think I like it. Well, that said, it's a conversation we're still having. It's the top 100 SMEs Uganda. Now we have a presentation. That's a keynote address that is going to come in from Dr. Fred K. Muhumuza, the development policy analyst from Makerere University. Dr. Muhumuza, if you can hear me, this is the time that we dive into that presentation of yours. I just can't wait to hear the solutions that are embedded in there.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's kind of a conversation, really, as we've said, to put into context the issues that we're having a conversation on. I can hear from Kawanguze, I can hear from the Uganda Investment Authority, but what is the economy like? So there's just a few things that we really want to have a conversation around, and as the slide runs, we are talking about SMEs. SMEs exist within an ecosystem. They survive on an ecosystem. Let's get into the next slide. Because they look for business opportunities. They are not charitable organizations. Even charity is offering a business case, a service to somebody, but that addressed in a non-business sense. So what is the best that the SMEs want to see? It is business opportunities, because it is out of the selling those opportunities that they are able to finance themselves. Even when they go off, they are either looking for startup equity or savings. These are forms in which they can start their business. But the ultimate end is they must be able to sell, and therefore it is from those sales that they will be able to refinance themselves, pay back the loans that they have picked from wherever, or pay their shareholders who brought in the equity. So they want to increase and diversify, manage volatility like Corona has come, but ultimately the SME must be looking for those sales. Let's get to the next slide. Now, this is how the banks, and I'm glad that my friend Kasasa has mentioned the banks have been increasing, but where is the bank credit going? You look from January, you look all the way up to August, you can see the big areas now. If you are an SME out there who is watching us, this is where the banks have been putting the money. Which sector, which space are you in? I do not know. Are you in agriculture? And the bulk of agriculture is actually in trade. Are you in manufacturing, which is the next from the bottom? Are you in building and mortgage? And thank you, Kasasa has told us. These are some of the areas where the strain is coming from. The non-performing assets are coming from some of those sectors. In manufacturing, they are coming from building and construction. These are threats to the big sectors. These are threats to the bigger economy areas, but also they have implications on the SME, because they are the ones who are possibly dealing with bricks, moving them around. Some of them may be just a small construction company, but they are also struggling in those sectors. Next, please. Now, how do we create opportunities? Because as we have mentioned here, it is about opportunities. The immediate support the SMEs are looking for may be directly to the businesses themselves, but the biggest thing, remember, I've said, is cash flow. And their cash flow is going to be coming from where is the business case. We always talk about a bankable project. Now, a bankable project is not what you write. This is what is the expected cash flow. And so that should take us to a bigger picture of where are the household, because these are sometimes the biggest customers of some of these SMEs. It could be government. So we must look at who is buying from the SMEs, because those, if those are not revived out of the Corona period, then the SMEs are going to struggle paying back their loans and surviving. So we must look at what is the National Development Plan 3 saying. Is it in line with the COVID economy? Is it in line with the current needs of the economy? It says it's going to create, focus on expanding and diversifying economic growth in order to create increased demand for labor. Before you create the increased demand for labor, this is where the SMEs are. If the SMEs don't survive, they won't do that labor demand. And so we need to have an SME focus. And this is the biggest thrust of growth the world over. SMEs really drive the economy. The plan also is trying to increase investment in some of the productive areas and expand opportunities in exports for the SMEs, it plans to increase expenditure strategy, focusing on that continued growth of the economy, focusing on infrastructure and social spending. Are these going to speak to the needs and concerns of the SMEs? Either you are beefing up their business environment or you are creating them those opportunities we have talked about. Let's look at the next slide. COVID is real. This is something we have shared before. You can see before March, the economy was doing very well. Really, we got disrupted. May, as they opened up, we bounced back, but we are not yet stable. Even when they opened up, some people found some opportunities to work, but there has not been that thrust now. Every time the economy goes down, and let's look at the next slide, opportunities go down with it. And this is why we are struggling to say, how do we revive economic growth? This is the performance over the last 3 years. Our economy, we estimated we grew by 2.9%, up from about 6.8%. And you can see the sectors that were really affected. You're looking at industry, you're looking at services. Agriculture, the orange color, remained more or less stable. So there are SMEs which are tapping into those opportunities in agriculture. Unfortunately, the sector requires a lot of injection, but that's a conversation that it should be continuously go on. But if there were opportunities in industry, definitely it's also reflecting what Kasasa said, the struggling areas in terms of loan repayments. You can see they collapsed in terms of growth. Services, people need to be thinking, and that's why I'm glad we are having this conversation with Kawanguzi. Social distancing does not mean you abandon your service. Technology, leverage those technologies to see where are the spaces and where are those opportunities. Let's look at that next slide. Because we are really, we've said, how do we recover? So what are the government strategies? When I look at the government strategy, I think we need a conversation, and we're having a conversation with government. This may not speak to the current concerns. The National Development Plan hopes to spur productivity and economic growth. We're looking at improving infrastructure, road and air and railway. Do these speak to SMEs directly and indirectly? Yes and no. Construction of a refinery and a crude oil pipeline, it might favor one or two people. But certainly if you're in the SME category, you may survive by depending on some of these, but may be far-fetched for you to look at some of these opportunities. Construction of industrial parks, most of our SMEs we're talking about may not benefit from those things. So you see a disconnect that a number of government programs and strategies are not speaking directly to stimulate the needs of the SME category. And yet the SME is very, very critical for us to recover our economy. Let's move to the next slide. Of course, there are some kind of things that government is trying to raise its revenue, and the best way to raise revenue, we have a domestic resource mobilization strategy that government has put out there. It's looking at a lot of investments within the Uganda Revenue Authority, strengthening administrative procedures to narrow the gap between what we can collect and what we are actually collecting. It's speaking to improving the ICT capacity so that the Revenue Authority is able to grab some money out there wherever it is. But we are saying, can we also support the recovery of the SMEs that pay the tax? This is not just about pumping water out of the pond, it's also making sure the pond has water that we can pump out. So we need to have a conversation with government, a conversation with the private sector to see how can government continuously support the private sector to move out. Thank God the president initiated Myoga, I think it was came up with that conversation. We see 260 billion. I think 210 is going into the rural areas. There's a 50 billion there for the urban people. Most of these would be SMEs. So please, if you're in an SME category, have a conversation and see how you can tap some of this money. Some people have said it is political money. It doesn't matter whether it comes on political time. This is a corona time. Take advantage of that if you can. So for some areas, government is speaking to that space. But in other areas, we really want to see how can government at this point in time speak to the revival, survival, and growth of the SMEs. Let's look at our next slide. This is actually the conversation that we really need to have. Here you are seeing two things. One, the blue bars are indicating the growth of the government budget. And then the zigzag line, which is around brown, is how the economy has grown. Now, because those bars don't give us a clear picture of what has happened over the years, I put what I would call a trend line. So you have a dotted line, which is black, moving up from the left side of our screen to the right. It's going up, showing you that the government budgets have grown and increased. The red line is giving you what is the trend line of the economic growth itself. Now, unfortunately, we see a deviation, that the higher the budget, the lower the growth rate. Now, this needs to change, because remember, SMEs are surviving on the trend of the dotted line. So if the black line, which is government's revenues and expenditures, is not speaking to the red dotted line, then we have a disconnect, that government budgets are not actually speaking to the opportunities in the economy. That needs to change. We have identified some of the issues in there, that there are a number of government projects that have been in infrastructure, but they are yet to translate into realities for quite a number of SMEs. How do we do that connection? But also there are a number of government things that are planned that do not speak to the realities on the ground. That's a conversation that is really is going on within government, but it has to be strengthened. Let's look at the next slide, possibly as we come to the end. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. That is Dr. Muhumuza Freid, the development policy analyst from Makerere University. When you look at all these, that is saying, Mr. Kasesa, the domestic resource strategy, he gave a very clear, if you're to pump something, make sure that the water is there. When you look at all these and how things are going, how effective has the Bank of Uganda debt relief package been to the SMEs? And are there some areas which should be designed better with regards to the package, with the stimulus that was given?
First of all, I want to thank Bank of Uganda for their responsiveness in providing policy guidelines to commercial banks to support the struggling businesses.
Yes.
The first intervention was for Bank of Uganda to allow commercial banks to restructure loans for the existing customers who have borrowed but have challenges because the business is locked down. So it was difficult for them to generate cash flows to be able to support their loan repayments. So we gave them, the commercial banks have been giving moratorium so that we can reduce the cash flow pressure on these customers until such a time when they come back to normal to start operating and servicing their loans, which is a very good relief. Secondly, Bank of Uganda has reduced the central bank rate by 200 basis points to 7%. That is intended, first of all, to make credit affordable, and secondly, to increase the aggregate demand. Because once you do that, then the economy is probably will be able to come back to life, and businesses start operating normally. Then thirdly, there is a liquidity assistance facility in Bank of Uganda for commercial banks that are struggling. So in case a commercial bank is struggling to meet the depositors' needs, to meet the commitments for their customers, the Bank of Uganda is able to come in. Now, when you look at all these remedies, I think they are well informed and they are spot on. But the challenge probably would be on the side of the restructuring, because we are given a window up to March next year. When you look at the economic trend, you cannot be so confident to actually determine that March next year things will be back to normal. So sure. What we can probably predict is that come March next year, there's going to be another wave that will require another phase of restructuring, and probably Bank of Uganda will have to come in to increase again the moratorium until there is full recovery of the economy.
Wow, that's very exciting. Coming back to you, Barbara, besides the PPEs, the sanitizers, the masks and all that, what are the opportunities that are there with the Uganda Investment Authority the SMEs could possibly grab on right now and they thrive? They have been resilient through these turbulent times, yes, but what are those opportunities? Because earlier on you alluded that we have researched programs, we have researched opportunities that one could actually tap into and make a big killing in this COVID-19.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Like I said, we have a compendium of investment opportunities, like you mentioned, and I want to say again, because I know after this talk show it may be lost here, but if you visit our website at ugandainvest.go.ug, you'll find that there. Yeah, I don't want us to miss this out. But they range from, and it's for SMEs, from the best tomato, how to make tomato juice, from oversupply of tomatoes, how to make food, processing of food and all that. But when we go to the investment opportunities that we talk about, I also wanted to, I think I can mention here the opportunities for the SME, the practical opportunity in financing for the SME. Uganda Development Bank has, Government of Uganda through Uganda Development Bank has offered credit financing to 3 partners of government where there's funds for SME for this particular time, the COVID-19, the COVID time. So if you're an SME and you can prove that you're into investing for import substitution or export promotion, you can walk into the these 3, Pride Microfinance, Housing Finance Bank, and UDB has provided
UDB
funds
is the
too, and Post Bank, right? You walk in there, you actually prove. But the problem, of course, is that when we say this, investors or SMEs do not show up. You know why? Because they are not registered. They do not have the books of accounts, or the whole details. So,
well, this is what I captured when we hosted a couple
Yes.
of them here.
Yes.
They said there was a ceiling to that stimulus, and that stimulus was not looking at people like him, innovators, because they have ideas, but their ideas, they're intangible. He knows how best, if well funded, how it can become to light. So there is that ceiling that they cannot go through, and some SMEs that came through for such stimulus, they said it went to the big dogs.
okay, now Andrew, this is what I'm saying. This actually has been, that's what is on the market. Everybody is saying UDB funds can be accessed. But the funding I'm talking about right now is current. Only actually Pride Microfinance has signed up. Housing Finance, maybe this is, and Post Bank are in the process. But the funding actually have come. The funding has come to these government partners. The funding, if you go there and you're an SME and you can prove that you're doing those to import substitution and export promotion, you get 20% credit. This is a specific intervention for government, for SMEs. But also, there's at the UDB, there's another very key and specific intervention, which I do not think that investors or SMEs know. So UDB partnered with EU and got funding, and this is a grant. This is not credit. We're not talking about loans. We're not talking about.
It's a grant.
It's a grant. So if you're an SME and you can prove, and this is for specifically the tourism sector. So if you're an SME and you can prove that during COVID-19, you are not able to pay your, salaries for your workers. Yes, you go there, make an application to the UDB, and they will give you the grant, actually, free money. But these are solutions that our SMEs do not know. So we as UIA partner with government to put these ideas out so the SMEs can know about it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm interested. I'm very excited to hear that. Do you, as an innovator, someone in science and technology, do you feel government is really giving you a really good safety net in COVID-19 to thrive?
It sounds like a trick question.
No, I'm very blunt. Here we are having a conversation because you chose to take the lead of innovation. Here you are.
So I think there are initiatives that have been put in place.
Okay.
In fact, just this week I was with the ministry, the Minister of ICT, and the Permanent Secretary was telling me about the Government Innovation Hub, which was a request from young entrepreneurs to put in place a facility like that. But and it's there now, and it's functional, and some entrepreneurs have been, supported. But of course, reflecting on the presentation of the good doctor, and looking at as we see government spend,
The budgets and
the budgets are going up,
is
but the
slow.
programs, the slow, how it's reaching SMEs. There's a big disparity.
True.
Now, like I said, the disparity is actually more dangerous than we are looking at it, because for me, I spend what I call 26 hours a day with young entrepreneurs, the guys who are,
The future.
the 75% under 30. And this guy walks into your office and is pitching an idea, something that could or could not.
Yeah.
So away from the funding that's been made available, away from the policies, they're not even in the categorization of the SME.
That's the thing.
Yeah, and yet they are the majority.
So how do we
They are
get
the
them
guys
in
on
that
the
space?
streets. They are the ones who will be in charge of this country, in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
20 years, yes.
Yeah, so And I guess we need to move to operationalize the amazing opportunities and policies that, you know, Investment Authority is putting in place. Just yesterday, one of the entrepreneurs, Evelyn, was featured in the Monitor newspaper with her voucher solution that organizations use. How do we get, you know, Evelyn to offer that service to Ministry of Agriculture versus that contract going to an external party, for example? I'm very interested in the compendium of investment opportunities, and I'm looking forward not to, because these guys, most of them are building some solutions. So can we add page 100, not to be Tomato, but to be this technology entrepreneur, Evelyn, who, if she gets she's an investment opportunity. So that's the trend that is changing. What is an investment opportunity? It's now Evelyn who has a technology platform that has a solution, that can go to government and the next 10 governments. And that's the investment opportunity in the young person. That's the capital that will never come from Mr. Kasasa.
Because Mr. Kasasa will ask a question, is she bankable?
Yes, where is the security? Where are the audited accounts? Where is that's where the conversation begins. So you find that her, Evelyn, and so many other entrepreneurs are locked out of what the opportunity space is, and with not being addressed at all. And you find that even the initial opportunities that are being put in place are not going to the majority of them. So for me,
there is a ceiling.
Yeah, there's a ceiling, and you find as government expenditure increases,
the development is just going low.
The ceiling is being strengthened. It's being made into further concrete. And that's where the problem is.
That's worrying.
Yeah.
I'll just drop this back to you, Barbara. How best can we have innovators like him? He's a little bit modest when he's asking for this, but I'll be blunt as a journalist here. I'll be the devil's advocate. What strategies does Uganda Investment Authority have for innovators like them? Because they have ideas that, if well scaled up, they can employ multitudes of people, and these are solution-based ideas. What avenues can they plug into the Uganda Investment Authority?
Thank you, Andrew. And when I was listening to him, I think you need to visit the UIA, because it's you that we actually serve. Now, we have, first of all, you can't go around it. You must formalize your business. You know, they keep saying we're there, reach us. But in this world, in the business world now, you must formalize your business. You must get out of your shell and come and formalize and then be helped. So at the UIA, we are partnering with a private developer to develop a national database. Yeah. So far, we already have 400 SMEs who are.
It's more like a portal?
Yeah, it's a portal. Actually, it's called an SME portal at the UIA. And this is the basic reason for its existence. For people like Japheth, we need to know that they're there. Come in, register with us. When you're there now, with this portal, we have linked with other agencies like Enterprise Uganda to do capacity building for the businesses, but also to know what you have. It's going to be an information, providing portal for if anybody wants, for example, abroad, do you have somebody who can provide this service or whatever? We'll go to the portal and get that service. So this portal of SMEs is going to be helping us to find, actually, we already have partners who are interested, like the banks. We know that Centenary Bank is already on board. We know we are going to be getting to you, Mr. Kasasa. But what we're saying is, if you are on this portal, now to be on the portal, of course, this is what we're going to insist that you work towards, because of course we accept you as you are, but we work towards formalization. Are you certified? Things like the top.
So you're compliant.
Are you compliant? Are you doing your books of accounts? Are you doing your taxation? Are you doing it right? You can't keep running away if you want to benefit from other areas. So as UIA, this is what we are saying. Formalize your business, but come to UIA. There are people who are going to help.
I love the portal. I love the portal idea, Barbara. Yes. But have we looked at the digital strategy of this country with regards to the fiber? Is UIA lobbying stronger with the government that we can have access to internet all around the country. I could be an SME deep in a BIM district, deep in Mitoma or Nyaruguru, and I don't have internet, but there are these opportunities. Okay. So how scaled up is UIA from the district level, or where can I go? Because now I can watch you, but where I am, I don't have internet. I can't go to the portal.
Okay.
What are my options there?
Thank you. First of all, we talked about both the one-stop center, but also the physical one-stop center. Clearly, you said you cannot access the physical one-stop center. What UIA is doing actually is rolling out. It's been already approved. It's in the NDP3, but already actually happening is that we're rolling out the regional one-stop centers. We're having already, Mbale is almost on board. We're going to have one in Bara, in Arua, and Gulu, as I've mentioned. We have plans for bigger regional one-stop centers. But also, on top of that, and you talk about the national fiber, we know that the ICT was the digital strategy. So for each of these areas where we are as a regional one-stop center, we're going to make sure that we provide workspaces for SMEs to come in. Already we are in talks that when SMEs come in, they will find a place. Can they come and sit along, you know, at that one-stop center and have meetings or whatever, access internet and communicate and be helped at our premises in those regions. So that's our strategy going forward.
Well, tapping back to you, Dr. Muhumuza, with all that you said, there was something that took my attention, and I really want to tap into this, Dr. Muhumuza. The budgets are going high, they're getting bigger and bigger, and the development is going low. What could be the cause of this, and how best can we, you know, treat that disparity to, you know, to either level the ground or, you know, have the development go higher than the budget?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. It's quite a number of things that really we are digging deep into to find these results and the causes of this. One of them is, of course, the debt burden on the government. You are spending about 4 trillion this particular year to pay interest alone. Now that means URA is expected to collect about 19 trillion this year if we are lucky. But if the 19 trillion is going to come in as government budget, and 4 trillion of this is going to go just interest payment, it's not going to speak to any SME out there, and therefore it's not going to speak to the current growth of this year. The same thing has a budget of debts we ought to have paid back, but we're not able to, so we call them refinancing, roll back Kasasa's money. Kasasa lent you a trillion and his teams, you don't have to find it this year, you just roll it over. It's going to be part of your budget, but it's not going to be speaking to your needs of this year. Now, these are things government will be unable to reverse in 1 or 2 years. It's going to be a 10-year strategy now. Is that conversation going on? Because until that happens, then the government budgets will be getting bigger, but literally the money available for service delivery will be getting smaller. We also the memo that went out there, government saying I will pay wages, but there will be no other money. Now, you've paid the people, but they are not going to work. And it is what they do that actually feeds into the economy. So it's going to be a very strong, candid conversation. But also, let's not forget, part of the government money is stolen through corruption. Now, you don't expect that to come back and feed into an SME kind of refinancing scheme. So there are a number of things that we really want to have. Security in this region is still in another kind of fragile space. Government cannot just watch and be there when the security is falling apart. But remember, the security must be for the SMEs. If all the money we have goes into security and there's nothing left for the SMEs to struggle out there, then we are going to have even a problem, the opportunities that have been put out there by Barbara saying, if you are going to be exporting, if you are going to be replacing imports, and you really don't see those opportunities being available on the ground, money alone is not the solution. There must be that business opportunity, there must be a business development service, there must be a market out there. For most of the SMEs, the export market is not available for them. They must begin by selling in the local areas and then be able to grow and leverage the other markets. So there are a number of things that we need to fix, but at least the reality that we are seeing is the government budget is not speaking to the aspirations of economic growth, and yet the SMEs can only survive if this economy shows some signs of growth.
Well, that brings me, thank you so much, Doctor. That brings me to Mr. Kasesa here. What has DFCU Bank, or how has the DFCU Bank positioned itself with all these circus going on, with all the monies, the budgets going up and all that? How have you positioned yourself to support the SMEs customer services?
Thank you, Andrew. First of all, we need to understand that the relationship between SMEs and DFCU is a symbiotic relationship.
I agree.
It is a mutually rewarding relationship. So DFCU believes that the emergence, existence, and sustainability of the SMEs will actually translate into the existence and sustainability of DFCU and the entire economy. So what you've done in these economic hard times, first of all, in line with the policy guidelines from Bank of Uganda, we have been able to grant the restructure to add the structures to all the customers that have been struggling with the repayments, so that we can release the pressure, we can ease them that cash flow pressure of paying when actually business is not performing. So that has been very helpful to the SMEs. Secondly, we are all aware that much as the country came into a lockdown, SMEs had commitments. The contractors had commitments with their employers, the government, they had commitments with their suppliers overseas. So we had to come in to continue granting financing to these SMEs to be able to execute on their contracts and also to be able to continue with their business, because some businesses remained operational. And as of today, some have remained operational. Thirdly, DFCU reduced the interest rate, just to be able the prime lending rate to 20%, just to be able to make the credit affordable to the SMEs. And of course, there are so many other programs that are going on, the financial literacy, quite a number of interesting things that are happening in DFCU. So DFCU has so much of centered and focused on SMEs to that we support. And there are quite a number of innovative solutions we're bringing on board, customer value propositions. And one of the major challenges that SMEs have is accessing credit from commercial banks.
True.
Because they don't have security. But when you look at what DFC is doing, we are moving away from looking so much at collateral as the means of financing the customer, the SMEs, but then de-risking them to look at the cash flows. So, and we are able to give unsecured financing. So recently we launched a new product for the SMEs called the Baraka Loan, where you don't have to bring a property, a land title, to the bank, but just with a simple agreement or a guarantor like you can guarantee an SME to come and borrow, and then we support them to continue their businesses. So
does this cover innovators in that regard?
Yes. Now for the innovators,
I'm so much attached to innovators because technology is the future.
Yes.
And if we don't give them the rightful space to play with, we are headed to doom. So I really want to be sure. So does this cover innovators?
This will partly cover the innovators, because as you innovate, usually probably the initial capital requirements will be quite low. When you look at the unsecured products we're giving, we give up to a range of 30 million for the Baraka, which doesn't require security. And we have the simple overdrafts, the TODs, you can give up to probably 50 to 100 million depending on your profile. But also, something interesting is coming on very soon. I will be able to look at the startups.
Okay.
So the banks have been so much focused on supporting existing, my friend Barbara said, businesses that have had record for the past 3 years. But again, there's an innovator who's just coming up, has come with a very good idea, which you think is going to be economically viable.
Yes.
So we are going to come up with a product that will be able to address such innovators.
Wow. Thank you so much. It's still a conversation we're still having. It's about the top 100 SMEs in Uganda. Be a part of the conversation. The hashtag is top 100 SMEs 20. I'll pick your questions in the next hour. Please make sure you ask the questions. We have the Uganda Investment Authority. She says there are opportunities there we don't know about. So you need to know about them. You log on to www.ugandainvest.co.ug. Be reading through and you ask your question as and when you have that question. We have someone from the Innovation Village. If you're an innovator and you feel he has not asked your question to the powers that be here, please ask that question on Twitter. I'll be back shortly. It's still an ongoing conversation and we'll be back shortly. Welcome back to the top 100 SMEs. We're still having the conversation. I really want to thank those online. The hashtag is still top 100 SMEs 20. And for this conversation today, we have Mr. Kasesa Ronald from the DFCU Bank, and he's the head of business banking there. We have Mrs. Barbara Kabuchu, the Director of Finance and Administration, Uganda Investment Authority. We have Dr. Fred Muhumuza, the Development Policy Analyst from Makerere University, and we have Japheth C. Kawanguzi, who happens to be a team leader from the Innovation Village. Earlier on, we had a conversation where many of you, by now, you're already asking your questions, and I would like to sample some of those. This one comes in from Lukugosi, Proud Acholi, in bracket. He says, this question goes to the Uganda Investment Authority. The madam on set keeps saying that there are these opportunities, there are these avenues. Why are we not having them from where I am? I am in Leader Town. How can I access that? That's a question to Uganda Investment Authority. Then it goes, this one is Sue. I think it's Susan. It says, this goes to DFCU Bank about innovation. Let's talk about that project you say that is coming through. Me as a youth with my team, how can we tap into it? Do we need to go to our branches, or we still have to come to your headquarters like the madam on set is saying? I'll start with DFCU Bank. Susan is asking about the project you're talking about of innovation. Does she have to go to the branch where she is, or she has to come to the headquarters like Barbara keeps saying that you have to come to us too?
All right. Thank you, Susan, for that question.
Yes.
I think there are two approaches to it. First, that we have existing products that we can use in case you're an innovator and you've been in this business for quite some time.
Okay.
We have some products which you don't require security, which you can come to the branches and you have a discussion. But again, the real opening up for the startups, as of now, we cannot make a firm position that now you can come to the bank. But it's something it's an innovation that we're also working on, probably within the course of next year.
Okay.
To be able to go back to the market, come back to the market, and make you aware of the presence, and you'll be able to visit the branches to discuss that.
Okay. Barbara, there was a question for you from online. The guy in Acholi, Luguse, Proud Acholi.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that question. Like I said, the services for UIA are rolling out. We are already actually rolling out.
Okay.
We're going to be in Mbale. We're going to be physically already. We're in Mbara and Mbale, and our investors can access us there.
I think Mbale because it's the biggest investment
Yes.
hub. Have you been to Mbale of late?
Yes.
The industries are remarkable
Right.
there.
But we're also going to be in Gulu and Arua, and I think this client is going to be close. But more specifically also, UIA is in partnership with district investment committees. We've set up district investment committees all over Uganda, in the west, in the north, in the south, and in the east. I think this information, again, is on our website. Please visit Uganda Investment Authority, ugandainvest.go.ug. We have a whole range of investment committees which we work with to get problems of the investors and how we can solve them. Thank you.
Okay, that is the Uganda Investment Authority. Coming back to you as an innovator, technology-related businesses have heavily benefited the pandemic by far. There are those ones I know who have thrived, and they're like, COVID is a blessing. And I look at them with this eye like, Well, from where you stand, how has the Innovation Village positioned itself to help Ugandan SMEs in the work of innovation boom now?
Yeah, and you're right about the benefit that has come as a result of
You've
of
made a
COVID.
killing, innovators, man.
So, and of course, we recognize those who struggled during this period.
Oh, yeah.
But with the new digital economy, we've seen entrepreneurs come up, build platforms, support other SMEs to survive. So our job at the Innovation Village is to scale the opportunity that technology provides and the promise that it brings. So about 2 years ago, we were just in Tinder Complex, and life was good, small hub.
Oh, yeah.
But through the partners we're now working with, we've in the period of COVID, actually, we were able to expand to Gulu, Jinja, and Barara, and we also set up a makerspace, which is applied technology for young people in media, entertainment, film, food related innovations, fashion, wood, metal. And then we've also built a marketplace for them to be able to sell their products digitally to a local, regional, and global marketplace. So part of that has seen us starting an innovation fund that we call the 97 Fund, where we can actually be the first investors.
It's called the
97 Fund.
97. Why 97?
So you see, a lot of the opportunities, like my colleagues are sharing, come and they, it comes as apply and survive.
Yes.
And they normally take the 1, 2, they invite over 100 submissions.
And they take the first?
They take the first 3. So we built the 97 to be an opportunity space.
Oh,
for
so
those,
they take the 3, you take the 97.
Yeah, for those that left out, but also believe they have a role to play in building their own country.
Nice.
Yeah, so the ecosystem is built. As we speak now, we have what is called Kampala Innovation Week happening, which is happening by bringing together about, under Startup Uganda, bringing together about 10 other innovation hubs to convene entrepreneurs across Uganda to reflect on what were the challenges, how do we recover, how do we become more.
Where is this happening?
It's happening at Motive, down the road.
Motive.
Motive is a maker space.
Okay. What you see in Kampala with no buildings?
Yeah. No,
if it's this building.
No, it's happening opposite the National Water Training School.
Okay.
There's a new facility that we've built called Motive.
Okay.
Yes, and if you go there right now, you'll find about 600 innovators and entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, still locked out of that ceiling of opportunity.
And so UIA is not there, bankers are not there.
And that's why the reflection I was having is we need to innovate service provision. And what I was reflecting on is when we were having a conversation with URA, they were saying, imagine if you're an SME, you only have to pay 80,000 shillings a year. It's given, but that's looking at it from the context of URA.
What's the return?
What's the return? Now, if we change that message and say, here's what you benefit by being compliant. You can do business with government. You can be investable. You can get access to a loan. Then we bring a lot more people into the bracket. So I think there's some work to be done in understanding that SME is a big bracket. But as long as it's, even if it's a big one, my concern is with that young person. The average Ugandan is a 15-year-old girl. All of these things do not concern her, and should probably switch channels. Switch channels to go watch music, because what we're saying is not communicating to opportunities that they represent, and that's where the real opportunity is, if we're going to be able to get more SMEs on board and also build more companies that will.
Well, earlier on, Barbara said that come to us, and DFCU Bank, Kasasa, said we have these for the innovators. Do you at any one time believe that you, the innovators, have not taken the first step to reach out, and you write an SOS and you say, here we are, and you wave that calendar? Do you believe that, or in one way or the other, because creatives are introverts at times, and does this affect the way you do business as SMEs as well?
So that's given, and you have to realize that it's a process, of course.
Indeed.
For example, if Mr. Kasasa has never given a loan to an entrepreneur, a technology type entrepreneur, he's not going to take that one type engagement for them to walk in and say, you're the one I've been waiting for. That's the process, and that's some of the work that we do with the village. For example, recently we had our corporate innovation summit, where we bring corporates, institutions like banks and also government on one side, and on this side we have entrepreneurs. So our job is to ensure these startup corporate conversations and collaborations to enable the service provider, who's the bank, to enable the service provider, who's government, to customize to this new user of the service that they have. So like if Mr. Baraka has a loan, called Baraka, sorry, Mr. Kasasa, yeah, called Baraka, 90% of the people I work with won't qualify for that loan. But you'll find that the solution they have
could address
a problem his customers have, or a problem he's facing with the agriculture sector or in the health sector. During this immunization period, a startup called Rocket Health was replacing, the need for you to go to a medical facility to immunize your child. They could deliver the vaccines at your home, So clients like that, coupled with Mr. Kasasa's capabilities, that's what helps us take service provision to the next level. Wow.
Interesting. This is a question to you, Mr. Kasasa. It comes from Fruity. Please bear with me. The name's online a little bit. But they're saying that what is the minimum and the maximum amount you can loan to an SME? That is Miranda Fruity on Twitter.
Okay. Well, the minimum, what we lend to a customer depends on their financing need.
Okay.
So you present the financing need, then you determine whether you have the affordability for the need that you want us to address. But again, even the maximum, you see, DFCU is a well-capitalized bank. We can go to a range of $20 million without blinking or looking for other participators out of the country or outside DFCU towers. So it depends on the financing need of the SME that will determine whether or not to lend that amount. Sometimes some SMEs come with financing needs which are actually not adequate enough to address the actual business need. So we as well guide and advise. If you want 10 million, I think 10 million would be not enough for you to service this business need. Maybe you need to go for 50 million. So it all varies. But minimum we can do up to around 2 million, and then the range goes up.
The range goes up. All right, now this is coming to you, Barbara. Amanya Davis Hillary on Twitter. He goes, well done. How is Uganda Investment Authority monitoring the implementation after giving support to SMEs? The plans are really good, just worried about the implementation. So how are you holding up with the implementation of all that you're saying to the SMEs as UIA?
Okay, so we have a monitoring unit at the UIA, and where we follow you up occasionally, maybe a year or 2 years, to find out if what you said when we were giving you the investment license that you were going to do, you're actually doing it. Now, maybe to calm down on the ground, industrial parks, we have industrial parks in the countries. I'll give an example of Namambe, KIBP, and Bwegere and Luzira. So in the industrial parks, for your lease to be renewed, we must monitor and make sure that whatever you said you're going to do,
you've done.
You're doing. If you do not, we're not going to renew your lease. So that's part of the implementation process. But also for the other investors, we continuously follow up, and then we have a database and we record your progress and we advise. Like I said, we have a business advisory department. And when we see you're not doing well, we advise where we think you can make your business better.
Okay. Well, just to amplify what Barbara has just said, if you're on Twitter and you're following the hashtag top 100 SMEs 20, well, there is a tweet that I think it's very patent that you get to know about it. Do you know that the Uganda Investment Authority has a compendium of business ideas of SMEs? So if you want to know them, just go there. There is a link of ugandainvestment.go.ug. Download it. Read through. I'm sure you'll find a solution there. You'll find a business idea you possibly tap into. Coming back to you, Dr. Muhumuza, while you're there, I want to tap into this. There is a vaccine that was found for COVID-19, and there have been conversations about if Africa can afford this. Now I want to bring it to Uganda. Doctor, from where you stand as an economist, Can Uganda afford to pay for the vaccine next year? And is government already planning for that?
Affordability is certainly out of question. We can't afford to pay for the vaccine. We are already struggling to pay for the tests, which are even more important than before you vaccinate everybody. First, let's find out where we are. But the good thing is the world seems to have agreed to say COVID anywhere is COVID everywhere. So we want to believe there's going to be a partnership. We're already operating under global vaccines alliances like Gavi. We have a lot of vaccines that are being rolled out, funded by global partners, charitable entities, and we need to be part of those conversations that are going on so that we too can benefit. But the vaccine is still far from being rolled out to people. Even when it's available to be rolled out, the logistics are still more complicated. But there are opportunities here, and some of the business community can get into them. We've seen businesses get into the testing on a commercial basis. We also may want to see people get into the manufacturing of the testing kits, because that's also a bigger cost out there. The opportunities that COVID has brought into the equation, they are not easy to reach. They may not be for SMEs, but we need to have that conversation to say that even now, as we want to fund SMEs from the government side, government also should now be looking at how will I roll out the vaccine, because even if they are partners, you also have to commit resources there. So we can see that the government budget is going to be even more squeezed by the COVID effect, both the health conditions, the other diseases that are still out there, and the impacts of COVID itself is going to really squeeze the opportunities for government. So going forward, we need to be seeing how do we grow the pot? How do we jointly do all these kinds of things? Of course, there are things that we're unable to do as a government in Uganda, which other governments have done. We are here having a conversation on SMEs. But remember, as I said, SMEs are looking for a market. Now, besides paying about 60% of the profit any SME lost in the UK, remember you're not in business, but they'll look at your books and the importance of formalizing and say you were earning a profit of this much, up to 30 million, we will pay you 60% of that monthly so that you can continue to survive. That is supporting the SME to keep you on track. But also they are putting money into self-employed businesses. They are also putting money into households. Your employer sent you home. That's not your problem. That's not their problem. But the UK government is interested in you continuing to go out there and buy things. Because when you buy things, you give opportunity to the SMEs to survive. So they are paying up to 80% of people's salaries, which you can say is about 9 million, equivalent of Uganda, to those who are not working, but so that they can continue in the business. So we need to be looking at all those opportunities, and we know Uganda can't participate in those, but how best can we make sure the teachers who are out of place have some money, not just for their own sake, but remember these are the teachers that support the SMEs.
Okay. Well, Dr., that is remarkable. Now, looking at the NDP3, currently one that it has been rolled out and it's going the program way. But I want to look at it vis-a-vis the NDP2. Did we achieve NDP2, especially in regards to the economic approach to the SMEs?
Yes and no, but as we said earlier, the linkages, because the NDP2 was interested in increasing infrastructure, the stock of infrastructure. You've had people mention that. There are many roads now you can drive on tarmac. But we are saying having a road does not speak to the concern of the SME, which is looking for that opportunity. So there are a number of things that were achieved. Electricity has increased. We have over 1,200 megawatts out there, but it's still expensive. I pay 22 US cents for a unit of electricity. Me as a person who is consuming from home. Your peers in the market, in the region, are paying possibly much less than 10. So those are some of the things that we have invested in the projects. But as I showed earlier, the government budgets are going up, the economy is going down. There is that disconnect that even after realizing a big percentage of all the investments we plan to do, at least in terms of financing, some of them are still ongoing, others stalled, it is not speaking to the economy. So the SME is not feeling that government budget, and that is really the concern that we need to work on.
And that brings me to another question from Akiza, Akiza B18 on Twitter. He goes that to Dr. Muhumuza, as an economist, where do we predict this economy to be in the next 2 years in regard to SMEs as well?
It's quite difficult to make a prediction on where the economy is going. We projected we'll grow by 3.1. We actually grew by 2.9. The current estimate is we might grow between 2 and 3% over the coming year. If we get some things right, we will bounce back maybe in the third year from now. So you still do not see those many opportunities, both for farmers, for traders, for everybody out there. A few fellows in the telecom sector can benefit, but let's not miss out the point, and I think that Kawangs has been mentioning. We can also tap other resources that are available for innovative apps, for all these kinds of things, the technologies, leveraging global value chains, so that while others are recovering, we also recover. I think the mentality in Uganda is set up a factory that must be Ugandan and within Uganda. And here the world has moved on. You be part of those global value chains. If somebody is making phones, can I make the phone cases? I don't have to make the phones here myself, but I can make the phone cases made out of leather for the top class people because they want their phone in a leather bag or something, whatever it is. Can we be part of those global value chains? And I think that's what we need to be moving into. And once those global value chains open up, how are they going to be fulfilled at home? Through SMEs. Because these will be small entities but manufacturing massively, following the standards, which are the issues we want to have a conversation. Uganda Investment Authority, the one-stop center that Barbara has mentioned, is a very important thing to reach out. But as I think the conversation seems to say, how can people reach UIA, Uganda Investment Authority? Uganda Investment Authority is saying, come. But as you said, I'm in Amudat, I'm in Karamoja, how do I come there? There are other government entities that Uganda Investment Authority can partner with, the local governments themselves.
Indeed.
We have ignored the local governments, and yet they are the feet of government on the ground.
True.
How can we work with the local governments to have these people registered? Because these LOCs know them. So can we share a form with the LOCs and they walk around and have these registered? We can have an app. The apps here can be developed so that it's an online, these people don't even have to leave their business. They don't have that time. So can we creatively be innovative in government to reach out and help the SMEs?
Okay. Thank you so much, Doctor. That is a great submission. I'll tap a little bit later to you. Now, excuse me, coming back to Kasasa here, how different has DFCU Bank positioned itself in all this mess? You gave us the innovations you have women in business, you have the best when it comes to investment clubs and all, but how have you positioned yourself and how are you unique from all the other banks when it gets to COVID-19 helping SMEs thread through COVID-19?
Okay, thank you very much, Andrew. I think, let me start with this. If you're an SME, not with DFCU, I want to use this opportunity to invite you home. Because DFCU is a bank that really understands an SME, the needs of an SME. All the solutions we have in place are made in consultation with the actual business requirements of the SMEs.
Okay.
So all the innovations, the customer value propositions we have in place are customized to the specific needs as addressed by the customers. When you're developing these solutions, we don't base so much on the business risk, on the risk appetite of the bank, but rather on the business demands. Now, we have value propositions that address especially the address challenges the SMEs face. The first challenge being lack of security. So we have quite a number of products. When you are dealing with the construction sector, you have the bid guarantees, unsecured, up to 500 million. We can issue within 5 hours maximum. We have unsecured performance guarantees, advance payment guarantees, for which you need a minimum security cover of just 30%. So if you have a performance guarantee requirement of around 3 billion, all you have to give us is just 30% of that as collateral, and then we release the instrument to you.
Wow.
Then we have also endeavored so much to de-risk the SMEs through various risk partnerships, so that we can make it convenient for these SMEs to come to the bank to access financing. Because you see, without financing, it's very difficult for an SME to remain sustainable. So you have to give them the financing. So we are getting in place as many partnerships as possible to de-risk the SMEs so they can find financing accessible and affordable. Then we also have financial literacy programs. You know, it is very important.
I think that's the biggest they need.
Yes, financial literacy. It is very, very important to keep on upskilling as a business owner. So the financial literacy is addressing things like management skills, is addressing things like, communication skills, marketing skills, addressing things like risk management within the business itself, is addressing corporate governance, just to give you the basic skills for managing your business to remain a going concern. So we're doing quite a lot that, will make the SMEs sustainable within the economy.
Okay. Barbara, how can we work with the local government to have SMEs at the grassroots registered? Someone at Gombolola needs to know.
Thank you. Like I said, we have the district investment committees. And actually, maybe I should speak to the same, to Mr. Dr. Muhumuza, who says we are not collaborating with the local government. We are actually, the district investment committees are actually kept by the local government. So they're supposed to handle the investment issues on our behalf. But maybe as UIA, we need to get out there and give this information to the, for example.
So if I'm a Ugandan and I'm at my village level, I can go to my Gombolola or my district and I request for the district investment committee and I ask for this information.
We prefer that you get to us directly, but if you are there and you're nearer those, the Gombolola, they will reach to us because we have established district investment. But we can communicate these details and when I go back, I'll
are there hotlines someone can just call? You see, I'm just thinking as someone who is totally off the grid of internet. Are there call lines I can call as a Ugandan and I say, or call 0800 and I ask all these questions? Do you have a hotline?
Yes, we have a hotline at the authority. I don't have it here.
We'll get that later, but
we'll get it later. But Andrew, I wanted to speak to the point as well that Mr. Muhumuza spoke about on global coordination. I entirely agree on this, and indeed as UIA we are calling to global partners. We need a joint global trade or global correction of this issue, because COVID-19 has been a global issue. We cannot sit here alone and discuss it, and handle it on our own. One, there are two, there's a UN report actually which has already forecast the global foreign direct investments to go down by 40% globally, but for Africa specifically 45%. Now remittances, foreign remittances, you know, to Africa are going to go down by 20%. Now this hits home hard because corporate demand, consumption actually goes down. It's directly related to how much we receive. There are people here actually who receive a lot in remittances, foreign. So to deal with this, we need a global collaboration. To discuss this and see how we can.
Coming back to you, Japheth, earlier on the doctor alluded to something to do with grants. He said in some instances we don't need even loans for people like you to thrive in this new normal. Grants. Do you think that's an answer to the need you have as innovators?
It's one of the answers for the need, and I'm happy there. Every day there are so many grant opportunities that come out for entrepreneurs, and that's part of why I said probably I don't need the Baraka loan if I'm starting. I may need a grant. And if you look at the universe of grants now, there are quite a number of them from government, from UN agencies, from associations and different organizations. But I think something that's quite important, even when you mention the grants, is it also has the flip side. You know, we've seen entrepreneurs becoming super grantpreneurs. You know, so you know what you need to say to get the grant, and you never translate to begin building the business. And yet that's the more important, you know, path you need to take. So you become, you know, grant after grant after grant versus trying
to sustain yourself.
And build your business. But then also, you know, financing is an interesting one. And when I was thinking of this conversation, the problem is most of the time not the finance.
What's the problem?
The problem is being ready for the finance, investment readiness. So we spend as SMEs a number of times so much time looking for the money, but then you don't actually, you know, qualify for it because you know the fundamentals are not in place that would make you, you know, investment ready.
You're not investment attractive.
Yes, you know, so you're not a viable investment, you know, to say. But I think for me,
How do we bridge that gap before you go in further? How do we bridge that? How do SMEs, especially under innovation, become investment ready?
So there are a couple of platforms that have come up to help us understand what investment readiness is. So for example, we leverage a methodology where we try to understand from, how do you start, how do you grow, how do you expand your SME or your enterprise. And in there, we look at 9 milestones, right, that you're supposed to be hitting around your team, your value proposition, the problem you're solving, your business model, your market, so when you look, and these are the things the financier will not ask you.
But you already have them in place.
Yeah, we won't give you the finances if they're not in place. But so if you put them in place, then it makes it very easy for the financier to give you that money. So we track growth along where you are as far as those 9 milestones, are concerned, to help the SME, the startup entrepreneur, become investable. However, that said, I think there's a shift and there's a very important trend, like you already mentioned, around opportunities that technology entrepreneurs have benefited from during this period of time. Now, my battle is, can we accelerate that opportunity? Because we're going to miss out on the benefits to tap into it if we don't bring the ecosystem together to accelerate. So for example, just when everybody's crying of COVID, we have a startup in Uganda, Tugende, that raised $6.5 million.
Oh, yes.
So
my friend started it's called a Tugule online something, where I can actually buy something from the US and keep it, give it to their location and they ship it for me, or they can I can actually buy something, but I can't afford it for now. They pay 60%. On arrival, I can pay everything.
So how do we get more Tugules? That's the opportunity we're missing out on. There's a Ugandan entrepreneur called Ham Serunjoji Chipa Cash.
Yes.
He just raised $30 million, backed by people like Bezos, Jeff Bezos. How do we accelerate that opportunity for the Ugandan entrepreneur SME organization? There's a Nigerian fintech called Paystack, less than 5 years old, was acquired by an American fintech called Stripe for $200 million.
Wow.
How do we accelerate that opportunity
for a Ugandan
entrepreneur, a Ugandan SME, in what we now know is the most entrepreneurial country in the world? So that, for us, I wouldn't worry much about the available financing options. I'm worried more about, if we're not accelerating that opportunity, then we'll miss out
the investment.
We'll miss out on the real opportunity to unlock a whole new generation of opportunities for our young people.
Dr. Muhumuza, have you heard his submission and all that he's saying about the readiness and the investment opportunities that are there with regards to innovation? What could be the best approach from your side?
I think it speaks to part of the conversation that Barbara has raised, the integration of government. You have a one-stop center somewhere, but then we are saying companies have not registered. And as I said, each of these companies is paying some tax to the local authority and local government, either in the market or somewhere. Now, how can we have one government that the local government that knows me has digitized this data and put it out there? UIA, therefore, does not need to come to me to look for me to register, because I've already registered with my local authority. Now, once you build this one big database, these fintechs can now come in and begin to do what we call the big data analysis to create certain opportunities, so that when they present themselves, you really are presenting something big, because I don't believe any American will come here and try to buy something of, I would pay $100 million to buy an app or some other technology that is not showing big potential. But also within that big data, you begin to see who is doing what. How can we help them? Mr. Kasasadea would have a bank, an account in Port A, but this person is raising money to actually go and buy a plot of land. But the next bank account in Port B is a person who deals in land issues. He sells land. So how can certain big data begin to understand what is the story behind these different accounts? And therefore, how do we link these people as a bank, so that Mr. Kasa doesn't even have to let the transaction for me to withdraw money from DFCU to go and buy land for the person who will bring the money back into DFCU. The system would have known what we are doing. So it's about building the big data opportunities that these fintechs can now begin to exploit and mine and become viable to be seen globally. These are the kinds of things that we're trying to look at.
Doctor, before you go, there are a couple of loans that were given by government, given to women groups and some SMEs on ground, just as a way to see that they, they resiliently hold on to the ground until when COVID-19 goes. What's your thought on that?
It's a good initiative, and we talked about Emyoga. Emyoga is partly to beef up existing groups out there. You are border people, you're doing tailoring, you're doing carpentry, something that you're doing, but you've been hit by a pandemic. Your circle doesn't have sufficient resources. So the money comes in to beef up these kind of sitting businesses. But as I've said, the businesses must be looking at a market. Because if you want to revive a business of somebody who is doing carpentry, and the people who buy the furniture are still not buying the furniture, then you haven't helped this particular person. So I think it's a good initiative, but it's only taking one quadrant of the circle. We need to go around and say how to reactivate this economy. The entire ecosystem needs to be coming back, which is a big data kind of conversation. So I think many times we zoom in on a problem because these people have either raised their case to the president or to some other person, or somebody has seen it as a concern, and we miss the bigger picture, which is the opportunity that we should be looking at to say, if the bank is to survive, who else must survive? Because as we are talking about, Mr. Kasasa would know very well, a non-performing asset is not an original problem to the bank. It's actually a problem to the person who borrowed from the bank. And then when you look at this person, it's a problem of the people he used to give a service to. So it's an entire ecosystem that to revive this economy, we need to have a bigger conversation, bigger approaches, interlinked, leave no one behind. That's the message from Corona. Corona anywhere is Corona everywhere. If there is a weakness somewhere, you cannot call these hooligans, because these hooligans are actually renting your house. If they can't afford to pay your rent, you're not going to pay that bank loan. The bank would have a problem, and all the good indicators that Mr. Kasasa shared with us, that the banks still have liquidity, they are solvent, we will begin to erode that basis. And the financial sector foundation is very critical for us to leverage any of our recoveries. So we are in this together, and we need bigger conversations that go around everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Now this question comes to you, Barbara. As they say, is the portal that SMEs have to be registered on fully functioning? Is it already functioning? And if so, how long does it take one to be fully registered on, and what does it require?
Okay. What does it need to require? What does it need
to is the portal the one you're building? I think
we're building it. No, we are building. We're in the final stages of.
You're in the
we
final.
Roll it out, and it's going to be in the media and everywhere.
So it's not fully functional.
No, what we're doing now is collecting data about the SMEs, and we already have, like I said, we have 400 SMEs already collected, and we are collecting more. And then the portal will be rolled out, and then.
Okay. Coming back to you, Mr. Kasasa, it seems DFCU Bank is selling conveniency from where we stand, that an SME from wherever they are, they can access this credit and all. Let's talk about someone who is a mobile money, SME, or someone who, it's a group of women per se, but they have their different styles of, mobile money, and they still want to thrive. How is DFCU helping them thrive?
So just to get the question right, this is a group of women
who
have invested in mobile money services.
But float at times goes off and they still need to have some money. How is DFCU, investing in them that they stay resilient?
All right. There's a solution that DFCU has developed for the mobile money agents. And that solution allows, if you are banking with the DFCU and we have created a limit for you, it allows you to access money, borrow money from the bank, replenish your float, be able to trade, and then pay back after some time. But again, if you're coming as a group, then that's a solution you have to package What we have right now is being individual based.
Okay.
So we look at the individual merit and we advance you the credit to be able to service, your needs in the business. But now if it's a group, then the approach will be quite different. So it's something we can look at. If we can have a proposal from the group and they can visit us at the office and then we talk. We see how best we can structure there.
It seems DFCU has a lot more things. If I had not asked this question, I wouldn't have known that there is something like that for the mobile money people. But while we're wrapping up this conversation, I want to thank those who are online. Nsereko Beck, I think this question was already answered. For those who are distant from Kampala, it was answered that Uganda Investment Authority, you're under fire here. Okay, it's still Uganda Investment Authority. Please go and see how exactly things are happening. And DFCU Bank has responded to the Baraka loan. We want to thank the DFCU Bank there. Then finally coming to the innovation, someone here says, to the innovation village, how best can I be a part of that village? I'm an innovator and I'm watching these upcountry. Do they have a platform where I can possibly talk to them as well and be a part of the conversation? An innovator out in the wild.
Yeah, definitely. I think COVID helped us to understand how to go beyond the physical location and tap into opportunities out there. So we managed to move 80% of all our programming and conversations
to the cloud,
online. So you want to become a member, you're looking for an investor, you're looking to pitch, you're looking to meet other entrepreneurs you can collaborate with. So all of that is available online, serviced through the regional locations that we have also managed to establish. A quick example, if you visit the Motive Marketplace, shop.motive.ug, you'll see over 199 products that are made by entrepreneurs across the country, from Gulu, from Jinja, from Barara. So it's beyond the physical space of where are you located.
That is what I wanted to get. www or what?
Shop.motive.
Shop.motive. Motive with an
Motive, E. Motive, UG, no, MOTIV. .ug.org.
.org.
Yeah.
So you know where to go. That is a shop.motive.ug.org.
Yeah.
That's where you should go. And when it's about Uganda Investment Authority, you should go to ugandainvest.go.ug. And you'll see a lot more that is happening there. DFCU Bank, while we're wrapping up this conversation, what could be your last word to the SMEs that have been resilient, that are still struggling through these unprecedented waters?
All right, thank you for the opportunity. Now, for the SMEs, I will categorize them into two categories. The first, if you're an SME banked with us and is still struggling with your loans, probably you don't know what to do, you need a solution, you need to come to the bank. We have so many solutions we can give you to be able to get out of the cash flow pressure by restructuring your loans. Now, if you're into business and you're thriving, we are open to new credit. We are lending. Actually, right now, we are going into the peak season, Christmas sales. We have traders who want to stock up. We are supporting the traders to stock up. We have contractors who want to accelerate their contracts to be able to wind up and hand over to the employers. We are giving the contract financing right now. We have agriculturists who are stocking they're into commodities. They want to stock for the seasonal sales. We are doing all that. If you are not banking with DFCU, I think it is very important for you to get to your nearest branch within your district, to talk to the branch manager or business banker there to take you through the buffet of products we have. If you're within Kampala, just visit our head office at DFC Towers, Nakasero Road, and we'll be able to support you.
Well, I love the word buffet of of options there. So concluding this conversation, Barbara Kabuchu, what are your parting shots to the investors, Ugandans watching?
Okay. I think I just want to use one word, agility. The SME has to be agile to the changing patterns and situations. I think because different SMEs face different problems. Now, there has to be a lot of management of risks, scenario planning. Do not sit and say, because somebody is saying, do it this way, I must do it this way. Be agile, listen to a lot of the advice going around, seek for advice. There's lots of business advisors. But also, as UIA, I think the reason we participated in this top 100 SMEs, we'll be happy to see these, especially this round. We want to see them grow from SMEs to investors who are, and then we can give you land in the industrial parks, and then you contribute to the economy. We want the economy to go back to above 6%.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Japheth, what could be your parting shots, especially to the innovators?
To the innovators, to the entrepreneurs.
Yes.
I think for me, every generation, and this is something we keep repeating, has a revolution.
True.
The revolution for this generation and the next is innovation, is entrepreneurship, is technology. So if you're an entrepreneur out there, I know it's absolutely difficult.
It's crazy.
But remember that this is your time. And now, and like they say, never waste a crisis. Now is the time for us to build viable, investable, I must emphasize investable. Solutions that can go on to be, to attract partners, attract stakeholders, and bring to life a whole new set of generation and opportunities for young people.
Well, there you have it. That is for the innovators. Dr. Muhumuza, as we're finalizing, as an economist, please give us some hope. What could be your parting shots?
Yeah, I think two words. One is partnerships, and where there are partnerships, the issue is trust. I want to see partnership because there are a lot of ideas that cannot be actualized because young people or innovators do not have the money. So we want to see those people with corporate resources that we call corporate social responsibility. Let's try to venture out there and give venture capital to some of these ideas, because that the only way will prove whether they work or they don't work, and we need to prove that. And in the event that they work, these become customers of these banks. These will become customers of these big entities. So let the big entities reach out, find some resource to finance these innovative ideas that people have. But also the SMEs, please find partnerships within your value chains. You do not have to look for all the millions you need to stock up. You can have a conversation with that person who supplies you the stock to say, you pay for half, but I'll give you all the stock. Have that conversation. Talk to your landlord to say, can I pay half? Now, instead of going to borrow money to pay the rent, this landlord actually can accommodate you for some time. This is the COVID era, so let's have these partnerships, B2B conversations, but they must come with trust. I don't want to give you my stock, you sell it, and then you disappear. So it's going to be a very agile way, and I think that is the word we have used here, to build these partnerships in order to manage the pandemic and its consequences together.
Thank you so much. And to those that have been online, if I could just look at a couple of you here, I want to thank Fine Boy Kara. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. Faizo, thank you so much. Miranda Fruity, thank you so much. And Sedeko Baker, we appreciate, and all those I can't mention here, but you've been a part of this conversation. It is our serialized conversation about SMEs and how best they can stay resilient in this COVID-19. Please, the takeaway, if you're an investor, go to ugandainvest.go.ug, and if you're an innovator, you go to shop.motive.ug.org. Go there as an innovator and you'll find all these lasting solutions. And if you're one of those who will want to tap into the financial options that are there and the access to credit, please visit DFCU bank that close to you, or you log on to www.dfcu.ug and you'll find all these lasting solutions. This show is powered by DFCU Bank. We have a Ministry of Science, Technology